Salvete omnes. Welcome back to the AP Latin live stream today. We are going to continue reviewing the Aeneid. I'm Jenny Luongo, and I'm joining you as usual with my friend.
I'm Ben Johnson, and I think that we'll do our introductions later, but I think we have something for them today, right? Something exciting to begin with.
Yes, by popular demand. We are going to be starting not only with a Kahoot, but with a review of literary devices and figures of speech. We've had lots of requests to do this on our Padlet and sometimes via Twitter. And so we are excited to do this with you guys today. Trying to make sure our sound isn't too loud. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about figures of speech today as we're reviewing these 50 lines from book 1. So we're going to be plowing through. You can go to kahoot.it with the game pin 3004817 for those of you Latin speakers. That's tres, nihil, nihil, quatuor, octo, unus, septem. And Ben, I hear today that there's some serious competition.
There is. I mean, I hate to say this, but I think my 8-year-old and 10-year-old are joining in. They're doing figures of speech in 2nd and 5th grade. So they might get alliteration, but onomatopoeia, I mean, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're in the other room. Hopefully they're maybe they're majestic hen or happy gazelle.
We'll know when they shoot to the top of the rankings.
Silly lobster, maybe. I mean, they are from Maine.
Exactly.
I'm gonna find out what their name is.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. So kahoot.it, game pin tres, nihil, nihil, quatuor, octo, unus, septem. And you guys, don't forget that you can continue joining even after we start the game. The game pin will be in the bottom of the screen along with the website. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started just because we have limited time today to do Kahoots. And also, big surprise, we may have time for another Kahoot at the end. So first question, and these are going to go fast today. Repetition of a word or words at the beginning of successive phrases or clauses. So you're looking for one where an entire word or maybe multiple words is repeated. So some of you, because of the lag, may be just now getting the question, and you 10 seconds left. So celeriter, quinque, quatuor, tres, duo, unus. All right. So, look how good they are at this.
Wow. I mean, anaphora is a fun one. Everyone loves anaphora.
Yeah. So anaphora is the repetition of word or words at the beginning of successive phrases or clauses. Did you find out who your kids are?
I did.
Are they up there?
No comment.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So now we're looking for a lack of conjunctions. I have a feeling that this is going to be one that a lot of people know as well. So I may.
I mean, if you know your Greek prefixes, right?
Right, exactly. And so I may even cut this one off early, but we'll see how many answers come in after we get to about 10 seconds or 5. So a place where you're expecting conjunctions, but you get none. Quatuor, tres, duo, unus, they're starting to come in. And we know that for some of you, the lag is hard today, but we have so many questions. We just had to do it quickly.
And like these figures of speech, right? It should be automatic at this point.
Yeah.
Right? You should just know them, right? You shouldn't have to think.
Absolutely. So lack of conjunctions, that's asyndeton. All right, continuing on, this time excessive conjunctions, way more conjunctions than you actually need. So
hopefully you remember what you answered for the previous one, right?
Right, exactly. So Parwa and Ben and his children are all here today doing this Kahoot. Is an example.
Well, there's many things, right? What's the Greek prefix for many? Is that?
Oh, now you're giving them lots of clues.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we're getting faster on these. So tres, duo, unus. Here we go.
Wow, 30 responses. Oh, asyndeton really kind of drew some people in.
Yeah, absolutely. So polysyndeton is where you have many conjunctions. Poly means many. Asyndeton is its opposite. That's the lack of conjunctions. So it may be just that you saw syndeton and hit it, but be careful on that. All right. So now, instead of a repetition of a whole word, we're going for the repetition of the initial sound at the beginning of words. All right. So this one is one that I feel like we're going to have almost everybody know. Don't you
You think
think?
so? I mean,
Yeah, I feel like this is one that all my students know even when they come to me.
my second grader knows this one.
Yeah, so septem, sex, quinque,
Quickly,
quatuor,
guys, quick, quick,
tres,
quick, quick, quick.
duo, unus. All right.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so most people got it. Some people did put an anaphora, but don't forget that's the whole word being repeated, not just the initial sound. All right. Let's keep going. We got a lot of these. The arrangement of corresponding pairs of words in a crisscross order. So A, B, B, A word order is how I teach this. How do you teach this, Ben?
We talk about 70s disco music, right? And then we do the little dance.
The ABBA one.
Yeah, yeah. Mamma
Yeah,
Mia, right?
that's a
Dancing
great group.
Queen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we talk about Catullus, Catullus, and the big famous one, Catullus. Oh shoot, 85, right? Ode ad Amo,
Yeah.
the big crossing one. That's how
Okay.
I do that in Latin 3.
More people got chiasmus right than alliteration. That's incredible. These must be Latin people. It's such a common usage. We're going to see a lot of it today. All right. What if you're addressing an imaginary or absent person, an inanimate object, or an abstract idea? What do you call this one?
Address. This is tough. This one's hard, I think.
Yeah, it's one we're going to see today. So that's good. We picked a good day to try to make sure that they know it.
And I think like this has to be when you address an imaginary absent person, it's got to be related to it's going to be related to speech, right? And so think of the punctuation that you use.
Oh, now you're getting them all sorts of clues. All
I mean,
sorts
that
of
was like
clues.
2 minutes to go, 2 seconds to go. So
Okay, so yeah, apostrophe is when you address someone who's absent, inanimate, maybe a god, an abstract idea. We had a lot of people put transferred epithet, but that's just where an adjective is modifying something you don't expect it to modify. All right, we're continuing to do well. All right, so now instead of ABBA, we have A, B, or interlocking word order. I kind of call it both in my class. I usually say it both in one breath. A, B, interlocking word order.
interlocked, right?
Yeah.
Confusion of things. I'm gonna get this
Yeah.
wrong. So the Johnson kids last I saw weren't on the leaderboard. So got a lot of talking to do
Yeah.
afterwards. Gotta break out the flashcards again.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
some of
I
these are
mean,
challenging, especially for second and fifth grade. All right. Okay.
There we go.
See,
Okay.
like this Latin crowd, they know the word order ones.
Right,
Yeah.
they do.
Synthesis, A, B, A, B. Good job. All right. An understatement, usually a negative to emphasize the opposite. So not unintelligent is an answer. Oh, sorry, is an example. And you know what?
That should be EG, Jenny. I mean, not IE.
You're so right. I'm going to fix that later.
Yeah,
I
okay.
added that. I do want to give credit. This Kahoot started by a teacher who lives in the same city that I live in, Alan Abbey at Westlake High School. And we used his definitions and examples to create both of the Kahoots we're going to try to do today. Oh, look at that. Okay, I think the not unintelligent got him. I think that's what got them there.
Not a few people
Exactly.
got that one right.
Not a few people got that one right. All right. When one word necessary for the meaning of a line of poetry is carried into the next line.
Oh.
What do we call this one?
It's like when you stick a word onto the next line. What do you do when you take it and you just?
I just got your clue. I just got your clue.
Okay.
I was like, I know he's trying to communicate something to me, but yeah, that's a good one. You just stick it right in.
There you go. Okay.
Yay. Okay.
And jam
I think they got your clue. Yeah, you jam it in. You jam it into the next line. Yep. All right. Okay, very unusual or convoluted word order. Sometimes my students try to convince me that kind of normal Latin word orders are this, and
Well, I
it's not.
mean,
I mean, I'm
I
not buying
think
it.
of it. I think of it. Sometimes this can be like distance placement of words, like an adjective might be like distantly placed to the noun that it belongs to. We saw that with the quam obscurum in Dido.
We did.
Yeah.
We have seen this before.
So things are far away. They're like super far away, right? Hyper far away.
Hyper far away. So most people knew hyperbaton. Good for
Yeah.
them. You know what? All these people who were begging us to do a figures of speech review, this one's excessive exaggeration. I think they might have been exaggerating, not knowing figures of
Everyone
speech.
was exaggerating.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were like, oh, we need figures of speech, but now they're getting all the answers right. So,
That is definitely not an exaggeration, is it? I almost slipped and I almost said the answer.
Yeah, exactly. I did that almost on the hyperbaton one for last time.
Right, but when like things that are excessive, right, are like super, right? Super things, right? So
Yeah.
like what's the Greek word for
Good,
super?
good question. Good hint. Good. It's hyperbole. Good job,
Yeah.
everybody. All right, continuing on. So now we have a direct comparison. Okay, so Ben is a giant.
Thanks.
That's a, you're welcome. You're welcome. That was a little hint for
I mean,
them.
I'm like 5'9". I mean, that's is that
To
big?
me,
It's true. In gains.
yes, exactly. Exactly. So what's a direct comparison? Polysyndeton, simile, metaphor, or transferred epithet? And we're running out of time. Duo, unus. I know some people are like, the lag is making me rush so much.
Oh,
All
we had
right.
a lot of people go with simile, but
Yes. So simile is always going to use the word like or as. It's not going to be direct, like Ben is a giant, like that one I just gave you. So that'll be a clue for later. This is a metaphor. A direct comparison is a metaphor. Ooh, we had some switching on the leaderboard with that one.
That's
Okay.
yeah. Oh,
I wonder
whoops.
what this could be. I'm just, I was so kind. I was really helping him out with this one. All right, so a comparison using like or as. What could this be? They're just now getting their answer options because of the lag. So they're like, oh, quick.
You should the question is what are the words in Latin that introduce? That's
Yeah,
more.
that's a
Yeah,
good question. We're gonna see some today, I think. We saw some yesterday. Aquiluti, I believe we saw yesterday. Okay, good job. Good listening.
Okay, they know
Comparison
this.
using like or as is a simile. Nicely done. All right. When a related thing substitutes for something else, like when we have the word Bacchus instead of wine, which of these things would that be? Metonymy, metaphor, transferred epithet, asyndeton.
I think that example is a good one.
Oh,
That's a big
Bacchus in
hint. Yeah.
place of wine. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think, is it today that we're going to see kerem standing for grain, or is that tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. Yeah, that's
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah, all the lines start running together for me. All right, almost there.
Everyone knows metonymy.
Good job.
I remember struggling with metonymy, like the more abstract metonymies when I was in my 20s though. I mean, that's
Yeah, no,
like the
I
pen
think so
is mightier
too.
than the sword, or the
Yeah,
crown desires something. That's it can be tough. It's an abstract concept. So
it can, but they seem to have that Bacchus for wine down well. All right. When a word emulates a sound, this is another easy one. I think they're going to get it fast. I may even cut it off early. I keep threatening. I haven't done it yet.
cut it
But
off after the Johnson children have answered.
yes, exactly. When a word emulates a sound, is it alliteration, onomatopoeia, hyperbaton, or temesis? All right.
There we go. Okay.
We're getting there. Getting some answers in. All right. When a word emulates a sound. Almost there. Oh, we got tons of answers right at the end.
Okay.
Good. They all know onomatopoeia. Nicely done. All right. Giving human characteristics to an inanimate object. This is another one I think that maybe the Johnson children know too. What do you think?
Well, they do know that the Latin word for character, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
right. Which comes from Etruscan.
Personification, onomatopoeia, metonymy, or simile. Which one is this one? I keep
We've had all
threatening
the
to.
others. We've had 3 of these already. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hopefully they've got it. I keep wanting to cut them off, but I know because of the lag, I need to give them a little bit
Yeah.
that few extra seconds.
There you
Okay,
go.
great.
Okay, yeah.
Personification, we got it. All right, a question that doesn't expect an answer. So we've got a couple of different options here. One is going to seem fairly obvious when they see it. A question that doesn't expect an answer.
Maybe it's a
Hyperbaton.
trick. This is a trick, I think.
It could be a
I think
rhetorical
it is.
question,
Yeah.
metonymy, or onomatopoeia. Oh, we're starting to get answers in, but here come most of them, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, well done. It's a
Okay,
rhetorical
yeah.
question. Absolutely.
2 more.
When a word is split by another, abso-freaking-lutely. That is abso-freaking-lutely what this is.
Someone gets that right away. That is not me, by the way. I don't know who this one person is.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think they're guessing.
I don't know. Maybe Anna's playing along. Maybe our AP producer Anna's playing along.
Ned Flanders from The Simpsons does this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. All right, we're almost there. So which one is this? Okay, so you guys, it's tmesis when you split a word.
Which is Greek for cutting, right?
Right. Okay, last one. When an adjective describes an unexpected noun, as in the walls of high
guessing now.
Rome.
Everyone's guessing.
Yeah. So is it apostrophe, transferred epithet, enjambment, or metaphor? I feel like we've talked about all of these but one, Ben. What do you think?
I think we have. Which one?
I think we have. For people who needed figures of speech, hopefully this has been like a really good comprehensive review. I think we've covered pretty much all of them on the AP syllabus, haven't we?
We've covered all 19. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So when an adjective describes an unexpected noun, that is transferred epithet. Remember, apostrophe is when you're addressing someone who may or may not be present. So like, oh, Aeneas, I would say.
3rd place, right. Happy Gazelle.
I know.
2nd place, Smiling Wolf. 1st place, Winged Bunny, not the Johnson children. They did not make it. No,
too bad. All right.
They might have been 4th or 5th. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. We'll see. Okay.
Okay, give me a second here.
We'll go ahead and get going for today. Just a reminder that if you want to, you can reach out to us via Twitter during the live stream or after with questions. I'm at Jenny Luongo again. I'm at Parwa Luongo. And if you've been watching all along, you know why my students call me Parwa. And then, of course, I'll let Ben say his Twitter handle too.
It is not in Gaines Johnson. It is Latin Tutorial, at Latin Tutorial. And please feel free. We do check our Twitter streams during the live stream. If you have any questions or feedback or anything that maybe can help us through this, like, please let us know. So at Latin Tutorial or at Parwa Luongo, you can probably just search our names too. So
yeah, absolutely.
So last live stream, we gave you guys some homework, and this is the famous bribe that Juno gives to Iolaus. She offers him a nymph. And so we have 6 questions that you can hopefully get out now. So the first one, A, asks to translate the phrase sunt mihi. This is that dative of possession. Identify the case of mihi, right? Dative of possession. And so we can translate it as I have. You can also translate it literally. That's perfectly fine. There are, for me, 14 nymphs, but sometimes, like, translating it a little bit more idiomatically, especially if there's a standard idiom in English, is sometimes better. To whom is Juno speaking in this passage? Iolaus. That's a little bit harder if you're doing this out of context, like if you don't really know where this is, or you've done the entire AP syllabus and now you're in a testing situation. Write out and scan all of line 4. Omnes ut te cum meritis pro talibus annos. Nothing horribly tricky with this line. There's no elisions. It's spondy, spondy, dactyl, spondy with your standard dactyl, spondy, raspberry jam pot, as I like to call it.
All right, so identify one and only one of the promises that Juno makes in lines 3 through 5. So she promises that she will marry Aeolus to one of her nymphs named Deiopeia. She promises to Jungam Conubio Stabili to join them in a stable marriage. She promises that they're going to have a long lasting marriage. So she promises that he'll live out all of his annos years, or that she'll live out all of her years, Tecum, with you. She's talking to Aeolus. And then she says, et faciat, and she will make te, you, the parentem, a parent of beautiful pulchra prole, of beautiful offspring. How does Deiopeia stand out among the other nymphs that Juno mentions? She's pulcherrima forma. She's the most beautiful. And then to whom is Juno herself married? Well, she's married to Jupiter.
What's that ablative use of forma there?
So I was just thinking about that as I was translating it. So that is in respect to her beauty, right? So it's an
That's right.
ablative of
Yeah.
specification. Okay,
Yep.
good. I love it
Yeah.
when you test me and I get it right.
Sorry, I should warn you about those.
No worries, no
It's
worries.
pretty standard. Like we've seen this with a lot of superlatives. You see ablatives of respect. So
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
okay, so today hopefully we're going to spend some time talking about figures of speech as we go over book 1, lines 92 to 156. This is review, so we expect that you've already done this. So we won't cover it in too much detail. We've already covered our exam practice, which is great. Yeah, focus on that. And also that we get introduced to Aeneas finally. I mean, it seemed like it's been forever since we last started going over the Aeneid. 91 lines, in fact, before we get his name. We don't even get his name. Virgil doesn't even tell us who this epic is about, just calls him a man.
So we're going to be going very quickly, celerime, through these 60 lines. So you'll want to get everything ready to go from the bit.ly/AP Latin YouTube folder that you need, in addition to things to write with, your own textbook, maybe your notebook or a printout of the text from this section, because we're going to be moving fast, right? All right, we'll go ahead and get started on these lines from today. And finally, as Ben mentioned in line 2, we learn about the membra Aeneae, the limbs of Aeneas. I like that that's the first thing we meet about him.
It's a dative, by the way. Aeneae is dative there. I know that we translate it as a
Yes,
possessive, but it's dative.
right.
So
Yes, it's like a dative of possession or reference, right?
yeah,
Possession probably because it's body parts.
and we know that because this line is used in other places where it's obviously a dative.
So we want you, again, focusing on literary devices today, to look for a chiasmus here. So a lot of times that has to do with the case of words, or maybe nouns and adjectives paired. We want you to look for an anaphora, so a word that gets used over and over again at the start of successive phrases. We want you to look for some hyperbaton, some unusual word order, and we want you to look for an apostrophe. Remember, an apostrophe is when you are addressing someone who's not present. So there's one word that's a big clue. Hopefully you see it. And then we want you to find at least 3 heroes from the Trojan War in this section.
Just as you guys are thinking, we may not have found all of the figures of speech. Like there could be some, like especially with chiasmus and synthesis, like different logical constructions that that may work for these. And if we don't have it listed and you think that it is and can justify it, like that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So the first time we meet Aeneas, he actually in Gemet, he groans and then he calls out with an apostrophe to 2 different groups of people. He starts out, oh, both 3 and 4 times blessed are those quis for whom o petere meeting death contigit happened ant ora patrum Troiae sub moenibus altis, in front of the faces of their fathers beneath the high walls of Troy. All right, so you can see those 2 genitives, patrum and Troiae, that get sandwiched in there in that chiasmus. And then he continues on with the apostrophe. He addresses O Tudidae, O son of Tydeus. This is Diomedes, who almost killed Aeneas in the Trojan War. And he says, bravest of the race of the Greeks. And then he basically asked him, like, mene non potuisse, was I not able to fall on the Trojan fields and to pour out Ani Monk, this spirit tua dextra, by your right hand? So there's this great chiasmus of like his right hand like surrounding him. He almost killed him, but he got away, right? So he's like basically saying, why am I not dead? Like, why am I having to go through this again?
Especially at
So
sea too, at sea, like the worst death
right,
possible. Yeah.
exactly. And so we have Hector, this great Trojan, who's called Siwus. There's kind of some hyperbaton there where he's separated from his adjective. We've got him falling, he lies dead, Tello, because of the weapon Iacchidae of Achilles. That's the grandson of Iacchus, I think. That's another patronymic. And then we have Sarpedon, who's the son of Jupiter. He even falls in the war. And so Aeneas is like, why did all those people die and I'm still here? And notice the anaphora of the ubi, ubi, ubi. So those are some great lines, but we better keep moving, huh?
Well, I do have a question. So who else? I told you that that first line there is repeated in different forms. Who else is referenced with that line like that? Who groans? Who holds his hands up?
And his limbs are released.
Slackened with a
Yep,
chill. Yeah. Who
exactly.
is that?
Yeah,
Who?
it's
And who and
Turnus.
where? It is
Turnus at the
Turnus.
very end, and I love how he connects. The first time we see Aeneas and the last time we see
Yeah.
Turnus are totally connected. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Okay, so moving on. We go back to the storm. So we're focusing from Aeneas's perspective and point of view, and that's what this Jactanti Talia is to him, tossing out such words. So everything from here is really kind of through his eyes. We want you to look through this and identify a chiasmus and a hyperbole. And also, there's a metaphor with the rocks in 109. Metaphor can be kind of tough to look at, but there's a metaphor here, and I kind of want you to think about that. And so, like, looking for these chiasmuses and hyperboles can be a little tough, but
It can be, but
yeah,
these kids are quick.
especially at speed too.
Yeah.
So Aeneas sees the storm happen to his ships, and we've got this this gust roaring with the aquilo, and it strikes the sail. And the hyperbole that I see in these lines is that it raises fluctus waves ad sidera to the stars. Like, that's obviously exaggeration, and yet for Aeneas, it's probably what it feels like. These waves are about as huge as they could possibly ever be. It's so huge that they're going all the way up to the firmament, to the stars there. We have oars are broken, and then the prow turns of a ship. And there it's a chiasmus because the subjects are on the inside section and the verbs are on the outside. And we get this huge heaping tower of water. This Mons, this mountain, right? That could be hyperbole too. Comes over and crashes down on the ship. And some men, this he and he's here, men are swimming in the water. Some are on waves and some are just regular in the bottom part of the water. And then the south wind, the Notus, grabs a couple of ships and it twists them into hidden rocks. And the metaphor here in line 109 is that the Italians call these rocks arai, altars. And it's a metaphor because it's an explicit comparison. They're not saying they're like altars. They're saying they are altars, in that ships get sacrificed on these altars to the gods. And this is part of the idea of sacrifice in the Aeneid too. It kind of starts really early. And then the Eurus, the east wind, grabs three more and dashes them into sandbars, miserabile visu. And then we finally finish with the grammatical chiasmus here, where it dashes three ships on the shallows, in leaded wadis, and with a mound of sand it surrounds. So there's your ablatives in the middle and your verbs on the outside. Oh, we have more destruction.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
not going to ask you any questions about this one. Oh, sorry, Ben.
that's okay.
Just because we need to go through these lines a lot, but I'll let you go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
This is the one ship, by the way, Unam, the one ship that gets destroyed in the storm, and it's the ship that's carrying Orontes. Aeneas meets Orontes in book 6, in fact, in the underworld. But we also have 4 other ships noted here. We've got the ship of Aeneas, the ship of Achates, who's able to swim to safety apparently and rejoin Aeneas. We've got Abbas's ship and Aletes' ship too. And the storm overwhelms, it conquers or defeats these ships. We've got a nice little phrase though in the middle there.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite phrases in this section. Rapidus vorat aequore vortex. The swift whirlpool devours them in the sea. There's such great sounds there in this section.
Yeah, it sounds like a whirlpool kind of spinning too.
Yeah. All right.
I'm
So,
doing this one too, apparently.
oh, excellent.
So we got to have the storm end at some point, and Neptune's going to arrive, and we want you to look at this entrance of Neptune onto the scene, and identify alliteration, onomatopoeia, metaphor, chiasmus, and then also look for the 2-word phrase here that shows how Neptune feels when he sees the destruction from the storm. And that first line there in 124 is super famous because there's lots of really cool things with it. So that may be a hint. Because of the alliteration, right? Magno misceri murmure pontum e misam hiemem. Lots of M's there, right? And the M sound can possibly be the sound of the murmur or the kind of the roar of the storm and stuff. Neptune felt that the sea was mixed with this great murmur. Murmur also is an onomatopoeia because murmur is the sound that murmurs make. Whenever I hear murmurs, I just hear the murmur, murmur. And that a storm was sent out. Chiasmus can kind of span 2 lines too, and that's perfectly fine. So emis and wadis are on the outside and stagna refusa in the middle. So he had felt that he had sensed that the still waters have been poured back from the deepest shallows, or whatever, however you want to do that. Like that's interesting. Little paradox there, I guess. And he's graviter commotus. He's gravely, heavily disturbed. That is a great 2-word phrase that describes maybe how Neptune feels here. He looks out over the deep and he raises his head from the top of the wave. This again is a great chiasmus that has the head, his calm head in the middle and the water on the outside. So it's very visually pleasing. He also sees the scattered fleet of Aeneas, the fleet scattered all over the sea. I guess that could be a hyperbaton with dysjectam, kind of really scattered and far away from the class M that it modifies. And then another chiasmus. Wow, 4 chiasmuses.
Yeah, this part is
Chiasmata.
great.
Yeah. He also sees that the Trojans are overwhelmed by the waves and this ruina caeli, this downfall of the sky, this destruction of the sky. And that's a metaphor because it's referring to rain. Rain falls down from the sky, but the idea of the destruction of the sky is a bit metaphorical in this situation. And at once in line 130, we know that Neptune there notices that his sister Juno is the person at fault here.
Everyone blames poor Juno. All right, so we're going to take a look at this next section where Neptune takes control with this speech. And so we want you to look through this section that has the speech of Neptune and look for litotes. Okay, so there are a couple of words that you might key on for litotes. Non is an obvious one. Haud sometimes also. Synthesis, that AB word order we want you to look for. And then a rhetorical question or rhetorical questions.
What would you look for that?
Pretty easy to spot because you're going to get a question mark. So
with no answer, right?
Yeah. Right, exactly. So I feel like with this one, they may have already spotted a couple of these. What do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he actually calls Eurus and Zephyrus over to him, and then he says Talia, these things. My kids love the word Talia because I have a cat named Talia, so they get excited when they see that. Roma Italia, we call Talia. So he actually starts with some rhetorical questions. And the first one includes great ABAB word order. So he says, has such trust in your kind held you? Like, did you think you were all that? And he addresses them directly. He says, Venti, audatus, do you dare to mix the sky and the land terramque, meo sine numine, without my divine will, and to tolerate to raise such masses, tantas moles? And then there's this great, it's not one that is officially on the AP list, but there's this great aposiopesis where he says, quos ego, you whom I always tell my students, he wants to say like, could crush like a bug, but said, but it's better for him to componere, to settle the waves. And then he says afterwards that they will luetus, they'll atone for these crimes that they have committed, commissa, non simile poena, with a not similar punishment, which I always interpret to mean worse than what they've done.
Yeah, but he doesn't say different, right? And that's where you get the whole thing with
Yeah,
litotes.
yeah, it's not similar exactly. I think it's like when your parents don't quite know what to do with you yet, but they're like, you're gonna pay for this. That's kind of
I liken this section to the parent coming home when the kid's throwing a huge party.
exactly,
Yeah, the house is all
exactly.
out of disorder. Yeah. Okay.
Right, exactly. So he tells them to take off, maturate fugam, hasten their flight, and then he tells them what to say to Regi, their king, that it's not his imperium over the sea, Pelagi, that was given to mihi sorte by Lot. And so he says, he's in charge of those imania saxa, your homes, but not in charge of my sea. All right, shall we look at the next one?
Briefly for this one, there's some action here. I mean, Virgil really has to kind of like rescue the Trojans. So he does that with Neptune, and Neptune has a couple of helpers, Kaimotoe and Triton, and they do their job. And then Neptune glides over the tops of the waves on his light wheels. That's a synthesis, by the way. And I love referring to Neptune's chariot as just his wheels, even though I don't think he has wheels. I think that why would he have wheels on his sea chariot? I mean, anyway,
Cornone. Why not,
why not? Right. So we're going to end with the great simile of the orator, which is the first simile in the Aeneid. So it's obviously really important. And want to identify in this simile one of the following literary devices, at least one of the following for each. Enjambment, synthesis, and a syndeton. So remember, enjambment is where the line carries over to the next line. So that's going to be something that's going to be on 2 lines. And what word introduces the simile in these lines? So it's important to think about the words that Virgil uses when he's going to introduce a simile, because that'll be an easy way to recognize them. So the enjambment, and there could be others, but I think that a great enjambment here is how we start the simile with, and just as like when in a great people, a seditio, a riot has arisen. And the fact that the subject seditio is on the next line kind of like helps run things over, and it is an enjambment. We have this crowd raging, and torches and rocks fly, and then we have rage supplies the weapons. And you would think that there would be a some sort of connection between torches and rocks fly, and then so rage supplies the weapons, but there isn't. So we are lacking a conjunction there, so that can be considered an asyndeton. Then maybe they've seen some guy, because remember, after si nisi numine, this si quem there is si aliquem. They see some guy who is heavy in piety and merits. So piety is really important. This might be Neptune or Aeneas or someone else. Conspexere, they grow quiet, or they've caught sight of him, and they silent, they are quiet now. Again, no conjunction between those two verbs. And I think the fact that there is no conjunction is very emphatic there. So that's also an asyndeton, and they stand there. And he rules their hearts with his words, and he softens their chests. So in this way, seek, the whole crash of the sea falls down, has fallen down. And the Argenitor here, who is carried into the open sky, that would be Neptune, another synthesis. He bends his horses and he rides off in his chariot into the sunset. So just to let you guys know that the simile here is introduced by veluti, which is just as. This is a fantastic simile, by the way. This is like the one time in the Aeneid where piety actually defeats rage. And it happens first, and then every single other time in the Aeneid, when piety and rage go at it, rage wins.
Rage wins. Yeah.
Are we gonna do this?
So I was just thinking about that. You know what? I think maybe we should let them know that we have a practice Kahoot that we will put on the homework assignment.
Great.
What do you
Okay.
think?
Yeah, I think so.
So you guys, the first Kahoot we did, if you want to play it again, we will put that as a link both on the links page and on the homework assignment. And then we have a Kahoot where you can practice looking at Latin terms and determining what figure of speech they are. And so for those of you who really wanted more figure of speech practice, we'll put both of those on the homework for you. I think that's the best plan.
Right. It's like knowing what the figures of speech are, it only helps you so much. It's being able to apply that knowledge in Latin. That's really important and can be challenging too. So practicing as much as you can is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can go through and do that over and over again.
Iterum
quae. Exactly.
So questions to think about, again, taking this work beyond just like what it actually says. What is our first impression of Aeneas from his speech? Like this is something where it does have precedent in Homer in the Odyssey, but I think that Virgil puts his own little spin on it. And this is Aeneas's epic, and yet he acts in a certain way that we would consider to be not very heroic, and calling out like for the as if he were dead or that he should die. And even though there's precedent in the Odyssey for this, it's not the first time that we see Odysseus. So it's really important the first time we see our hero, and this is our first impression. Like, why would Virgil do that? And how does it make us feel? Also, like the concepts of chaos, rage, and order, piety, how do they resolve themselves in the storm and orator simile? And that's always important in the themes that I teach. We always got to look at chaos and order, rage and piety, and stuff like that. And this is this picture here, just quickly, is from a super old manuscript. So you can see Aeneas there holding up his two palms.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. I was going to say Aeneas is going to have a better day tomorrow. Like today's a rough day for Aeneas.
Maybe, yeah. He's gonna take out his frustrations on
I think
on some deer.
On some deer, yeah. But yeah, exactly. I think he definitely has a better day tomorrow. Okay, so when we get to the exam practice, you guys are going to notice that you're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, we're looking at a non-syllabus passage. And the reason that we're doing that is because don't forget, we're still going to, on that last 15-minute section of this year's exam, we're still going to have a cite passage from some work of Virgil. So this one is one that we pulled off of AP Classroom that is from later in the Aeneid. And then you're also going to notice that we're giving you multiple choice questions. You don't need to scribble these down. You can obviously go back and pause the video later, but these are also in your folder. And we've mentioned this before, but we still think the activity of doing multiple choice questions is helpful in terms of thinking about how to prep for the AP exam. And I think in particular for a cite passage, it's a good exercise to go through.
It's gonna force you to work through some Virgil that you haven't seen before. So however you do that, that's great. So everything's going to be in the resource folder here, which is our bit.ly link, AP Latin YouTube. We still have the Padlet up, AP Lat Qs, which is what I'm going to be doing downstairs in my basement afterwards. A couple of heavy Lat Qs. So anyway,
I
Um,
just got that.
yeah, sorry. Don't forget to tweet at Parwa Luongo to complain about my jokes, or to tweet at Latin Tutorial to say how awesome my jokes are. And we also want to let you know that if you have any issues around technology, go to cb.org/tech and fill out the form there. Thanks for watching, guys. I think
I think
we're gonna
it's been a rough day for Aeneas, but a good day for people who like literary devices.
yes, and hopefully like it's been a good practice for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will definitely put those practice Kahoots up for everybody to do. And maybe, who knows, we may do
So-
them later. You never know.
So tomorrow's going to be a better day for Aeneas, a better day for Achates, right? He's going to have some
Yeah,
success there. A better day for
exactly.
the
No more
Trojans.
swimming.
They're going to get some something to drink, right?
Yeah.
And not a good day for deer.
Yeah.
That's too
So
bad.
get
Yeah.
ready for that if you're an animal lover. All right, we'll
Yeah.
see you tomorrow.
Valete
Valete
omnes.
omnes.